Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vickie Poole. I'm a master transformational coach and hypnotist specializing in habit change. And this podcast is sponsored by the Enlightened Peach. And it's all about embracing our mosaic life. Well, some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life anyway? Well, it is recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing, and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. And I am your host, and I have a special guest that I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But before I do, I would love to ask you to do me a solid, and that is to leave a comment, maybe ask a question. And specifically, remember to like, subscribe, and share. I have amazing guests that come in on my podcast, and I want to support them in such an amazing way. And you can help me do that. Go ahead, like, subscribe, and share this out. So now let's get started. So, this lovely lady right here is Kali Bolo. And I'm going to let her tell you who she is because I'll be honest, we just kind of passed paths. And I said, "Do you want to come on the podcast?" And she said, "Yes." So here we are. So I don't know a lot about her. So I'm really excited about getting to know her with right along with you guys. So, all right, Callie, take it away.
Thank you, Vickie Poole. Thank you for this opportunity to spend time with you. Who I am, I'm an Aussie. I live in Australia, near Sydney, and I'm a mum with twins. They're now 18, so I'm in that moving on stage where I've finally got time for myself. I'm a coach. I did a lot of coaching in the last 3 years with people with mindset and changing their perception. And I am an angel. I love working as an angel. I've done that for many years, about 15 years, connecting to Mother Mary and the vibration of the angels of peace.
All right, wonderful. Wow, that's a lot to unpack. So, have you always lived in Australia?
Yes, I've got a
Okay,
cold at the moment, so I may sound nasally, but I am Aussie.
that's okay. I'm not nasally right now, but I'll probably sound that way just because I'm from Georgia. So,
Yeah,
so I feel you. I feel you. Um, so you've got twins that are 18. Is that what you said?
yes.
All right. So that had to have been quite the adventure. I used to wish to have twins until I saw people that had twins, and it was like double th all the things. And it was like, well, maybe I'll take one at a time.
Yes, I think that would have been easier.
Yeah. Yeah. So are boys or girls?
One of each.
Oh, okay. All right. So fraternal twins then.
Yeah,
At least you
Jessica.
can tell them apart.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Yes.
I
Yes.
can tell them apart.
Yes, my children's father, his sister had twins and they were identical twins. And I could never I could tell them apart in the fact that as they got older they looked different, different haircuts and things like that, but I never could figure out which name went with which one because they blended together so much, especially when they were young. They used to trick people with who they were and all that stuff. So I was like, ah.
Yeah, I'm a twin of my sister and me look identical, my twin sister. But we did have that problem, but I was very shy. So my sister did all the talking
Aw. So was she older?
by 30 minutes, basically.
Yeah. Well, if you've ever done any of the research on birth order, have you ever read any of the books on birth order?
No, I've looked at the genetics of twins,
Yeah. Birth
basics.
order is a huge thing, whether it's 30 seconds or whatever it may be. The one that comes first has a different hierarchy and a personality. That's why she spoke up for you because she was the firstborn. So it's intriguing stuff. You ought to check it out because
I
it's
will.
very, very cool to read about. I'm a middle child. a baby and the oldest all at the same time. And I know that sounds really weird, but I was the second born. But then it was 9 years later that my sister came along. And I was the one that was still at home. My older sister had moved on. So it was like then I was not the baby anymore. Then I was the firstborn, but then I was in the middle of the two of them too. So I have traits of all of these things. It's really weird.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So have you always been interested? You said you're a coach and you do the angel work. So have you always been interested in that?
Yes, I've always been interested. Even when I was a little girl, I wanted to be an angel. I
Really?
remember wanting to be an angel so I could help my mum with her health conditions, so I could help other
Ah.
people. And I remember praying to God or the higher source about becoming an angel. Can you make me an angel so I can help, really help?
So what was wrong with your mom?
She just had a lot of sadness, grief. She had a lot of health issues, hysterectomy, like all of those health issues around the womb. And even with us in utero, she had the Hong Kong flu, it was called in those days, at 7 months. And she
Wow.
thought she was going to lose us.
Oh, so that's a lot of trauma.
Yeah, and she was so skinny from carrying twins, and also with the flu, she wasn't putting on weight, she was losing weight, and the nurse came to take care of her and thought she was going to die.
Wow.
Yeah, so she really had a lot of emotions, and as I got into my younger years growing up, I always felt like well, she used to call me her angel because I was always taking care of her.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was hard work because I never got to unpack my own emotions, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Like I did a lot of emotional support for her, but when I went through different things, like I went through bullying at primary school and high school for even my name. So as I went through school, I didn't feel supported by my family the way I felt I supported them emotionally. It was never there, and it was never allowed to be unpacked. Like I'd
Mm-hmm.
go home crying, but it was never nurtured or checked in with to see if there was a way of communicating the unpacking with my parents.
Yeah, so they were like a lot of parents used to be, where it's like, that's your thing to deal with, and it's just a normal thing of growing up, and they just leave it alone.
Yeah, and that was from age 10. Like I was been bullied by the school teacher at age 10. He used to
Wow.
flick me on the ear on his way past and call me stupid in front of the class.
Really?
And that really took a toll on me. So when I got to high school, I just didn't have confidence to
Yeah.
share anything or speak up. And so I had bullies, a small group of these women bullies who would pick on me when I'd walk past, and I'd have to pretend I was invisible, kept myself in a box. And that
Wow.
sort of perpetuated the rest of my
Yeah.
teenage years, like socializing. I'd just go to an event, and unless it was dancing, because I love dancing and you can't get me off the dance floor, um, and in dancing, you don't have to speak. You're too busy jitterbugging, rock and rolling,
Right.
like
And you're
all
so
this
in
fun.
it, you don't worry about what other people are thinking or saying.
Exactly. And it's like my passion, like the music and the movement of 1920s jitterbug just gets me like in the moment. I could dance for 4 hours straight. Like you can't sit me down.
Yeah. Then you need to get onto one of those marathon things where you win something at the end if you're the last one standing.
Exactly. And that would have been me in my 20s and 30s,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Well,
if I had kids.
let's go back because as a hypnotist and a life coach, transformational coach, one of the things that I'm always talking about is the fact that we develop all these ideas of who we are between birth and seven. And it takes a lot of skill and work to overcome those beliefs. And I know you mentioned in the beginning that you help people with their beliefs. So as all of these beliefs that you were stupid, like this teacher said, and that you weren't important enough to protect with your parents. I'm assuming as a little kid that that's kind of what it felt like, and correct me if I'm wrong. But how did all of those things start manifesting later to where you realized, ooh, this is something that I've taken ownership of that's not mine and I need to let it go?
Yeah, that's a great question because I didn't sort of recognize they weren't mine. I decided they were mine, like shadow work. I'm into
Mm-hmm.
shadow and you know, polarity and all of those parts of me. So I decided they were mine and I started working on them when I gave birth to my children, especially because I didn't want them to have the same experience from my conditioning coming out of me organically. And
Yeah.
so that's how I started with angel work and getting into energy field and healing the chakras and the consciousness of your chakras. And so that was sort of where I started with the inner child work as well. And then to get to navigate through 0 to any age, even up to now, Mother Nature always supported me. So when I was a young child, I could touch the frangipani leaf of the tree in front of me and without thinking, without contemplating, just touch it and suddenly I've merged with the tree and to the horizon I can see energetically. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew energetically heaven, Mother Nature, the whole quantum field was supporting me and that kept me going. That kept me living, even
Mm-hmm.
though all of the rest of those identities were emotionally draining me or impacting me to go out and be seen and heard. And I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but
Yes,
that's,
yes. Well, was there something that happened that made you realize you needed to do something, or was it just a gradual thing that you discovered? I know for a
yeah.
lot of us, it's that something happens and it's like, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. I want to do something different. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I had that box of the bullying, the emotional unsupported, and mum and dad kept it in the family and said, you're not safe out there. No one's going to
Mm-hmm.
support you. So that kept me going for a long time until I had my own children. It sort of kept me going, but dancing got me outside of that. So that sort of was my link. And then spirituality was always there. I always believed there was something way bigger than any of us.
So
And
were you raised with like a spiritual home?
not really. We did do Sunday school in really young years,
Yeah.
but I always believed. Like, even pregnant with my children, I believed they were God in me. And I
Oh,
could
wow.
feel their truth that they were these amazing beings. And I really honored that the whole time I was pregnant and for at least age 3 until they got a personality. And then I was like, are you sure there's still God in me? But so so reflecting on that, like I really I did the change of journey for my children because I didn't want them to experience my conditioning and me being stuck in that emotional child that was never liberated with a voice or unpacking their truth and just having a witness. And that's what I love doing with people. I love holding space for them and they've got a witness of their intimate truth of who they are or what they want to share. And so, yeah, so that amplified that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I took action.
So who was your witness for you?
God was my witness. Mother
Okay.
Nature was my witness.
Okay.
Mother Mary was my witness. And then little people or people, humanity were my witness, like people that mentored me, like my teacher of energy work, Shakti Durga, and then my mentor with my feminine presence work, Rachel Dane, and then my divine coordinates work, my soul identity work with Rhonda Renee from Divine Navigation. Like all of those people supported my journey as I chose to move forward. Every
Mm-hmm.
time I chose to move forward, God had, or divine would show me another possibility, and then I'd just action it. Like when you asked me, I didn't even think. I just went yes and sent you the yes. And I thought, well, I've said yes because I just seem to commit when,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it was midnight when I got your message and I went, yes. And I still didn't think, I have not even thought what it was going to be about.
Yeah.
I just sort of show up because that's what I kept hearing, just show up.
Beautiful. Yes, I love it. So, in some ways, from what you were saying, it's that old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so, it seems like as soon as you got something ready in here, then a new spiritual teacher would show up to give you that path. And then when you were ready for the next one would come, right?
Yeah, definitely. So even with giving birth to the kid, my twins, basically, I knew they were God in a body in me. I could this amplification of energy of them in me growing and my already divine connection touching a French penny leaf to source was so amplified that I could not know they were divine beings.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
couldn't even think of them in any other form. I just knew internally that they were special
Well,
and
I'm
divine.
pretty sure they are special because that's a lot of inner work to do before you're pregnant and while you're pregnant and everything. And I know because um, for me, when I was pregnant with my son, I had a lot of trauma that went on with myself and my husband, where he ended up leaving me when I was pregnant. And so there was a lot of things that were happening right up before that, right? And I was 8 months pregnant when he left. So I had all the trauma leading up to the 8 months, and then I was traumatized from there. And, even afterwards. And so he had anger issues, he had ADHD, he had a few other things. And I really link it to all the things that I was going through as I was pregnant you know? Um, and then I've done a lot of studies, and they even say, and you probably already know this, but scientists even say that it can be handed down from generation to generation. And so it's really important for us to be able to not only cut the ribbons to what the things that we've done but are dealt with, but we have to cut the ribbons from the ancestral stuff. And one of the research things that I saw that proved some of this stuff was with the monkeys. Have you heard about the monkeys? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And when I saw that study about these monkeys and how they didn't even have to be taught to be afraid of this one thing. It was handed down from generation to generation. It was like poof, you know. I had this really obsessive fear of the water, getting in water for a long time. My grandmother was afraid of getting in the water. She would only wade up to her ankles at the ocean. And the interesting thing to me is that I had a fear of it. And because I had this fear, I had a thing that happened. I don't know. I'm a lot older than you, I'm pretty sure. But we had these little floaties that went around us, and they had like the little dinosaur head or the horse head or whatever, and you'd hold on to it and you'd jump in the water. Well, I jumped into the deep end, and my parents were talking to some other people. And when I went in, the water hit that float, and the float went this way, and I went down. And I couldn't swim. And my dad looked over and saw me trying to come up. He saw my hand and he jumped in and got me. So I sometimes feel like it was that ancestral thing from my grandmother that had this fear in me that created the whole event to start with. Then I really had a fear of water. You know what I mean? It's interesting to me that so many things are going on behind the scenes, right? And when we can get aware of those things so that we can make changes, then hopefully at that point we're not passing it on to the next generation, like you were saying with your twins, right? you did a heck of a lot more with that than I ever did. But my two children, they could have some issues just from all the things that I went through. But maybe generationally after that, it'll be nothing.
Yeah, I love that because even though I've done a lot of spiritual inner child work, I still had to work what I can in my 3D world with the identity or the experiences of conditioning of how mum and dad didn't emotionally support me in communication style. Because
Hmm.
that really communication, like the box I was in to protect myself from the bullies at school, it all comes to communication. And so I never got the art, I never had the art of practicing communicating. So even though I've done all this spiritual, emotional work internally, it hasn't always supported me. It has, but it hasn't with the kids because they've got their own personalities and they're
Yes.
here their own journey. And so I've still got my conflicts and like it's not perfect over here in my blend of plenty. But I can see how they're empowered, totally different to me from my childhood conditioning
Hmm.
because they've got their dad is a really kind-hearted, generous man, and he's really good at communicating with them in the nuances. And so it's like we've balanced each other out, and I can just see how I'm not perfect, but I have just me showing up, changing myself is enough for them to witness that, even if they never talk about it because they're not interested in what I do. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's
How
like,
they're 18, right?
yeah. And even
They'll
now,
be
like,
interested later.
yeah, they're going to be later, right? And that's fine. But I can see how, thank God, they've never been bullied.
Yeah.
The one time my daughter got bullied, and I should say once at school, it was a 1 day thing. A girl punched her in the stomach because I took ownership of my side of the fence of that. She never got bullied again. And I did a little healing session on myself. And when I went to pick her up from school the next day, her and the bully were crossing together, laughing and hugging each other.
So what did you
And
do? What was the healing thing that you did?
I, I, I knew that my fear energetically of the kids being bullied from my experience
Hmm.
would have been a catalyst for the little one-off moment that Jessie had to experience it. And Jessie couldn't unpack it because she didn't believe it was bullying. She just said the girl ran into me, but my stomach is really sore. And I kept saying because she was only about 12, and so basically I went in and I just cleared my energy field out
Hmm.
of their relationship and took
Okay.
my energy back and my power back from any fear and judgment in me around bullying.
Yeah.
And literally worked on myself and it changed their outcome.
Yeah. Beautiful. And that takes me to so many places, because one of the things that, as um, doing the work that you do and the work that I do, one of the things we know, the only thing we can control in the world is us. And sometimes that can be difficult in itself, right? Um, but it's like when there's something that I'm upset about or whatever, if it's with a particular person and stuff, I will spend some time sending them healing love and light and, from my heart and changing and working on how I'm reacting to whatever it is. And not necessarily forgiving them because they probably don't need to be forgiven, but just being able to see it from a different viewpoint and then send them love and light and energy and hope and joy and all the wonderful things that I want in my life, right? Um, and it's amazing how it's almost like a diffuser. It diffuses whatever's going on to put it in a different place. Now, I'm not perfect by any doggone means. So there are times I wallow in it for a minute before I start giving it's like, ah. But I do. And there's people in my life that are no longer around that I think about and I don't know where they are. And I sometimes just send them peace, love, and light, even though I don't know where they are. And so I imagine that wherever they are, that they're suddenly for a moment, they feel this peace, this peacefulness, this joy, and they may even stop and think, well, I just feel like amazing right at this moment, and I don't know why. And so that is one of the things that makes me feel good is to think that somewhere, wherever they are, they're feeling that from me, even if they can't um, say it's from me, you know?
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, and I'm sure that would be happening
Mm-hmm.
whether they receive it or not, because everyone's got will and we have our own energy field, our own energy container, aura, and it's up to us to receive it. But when we, as light workers like yourself, hold the intention, the divine meets you with that intention and amplifies it and shares it on the quantum field with that person. And so definitely it works. I
Yeah.
mean, when I cleared that area for myself around my fear around bullying, it worked for Jessie and her friend from school
Yeah.
and or her new friend from school. And that I just couldn't believe it that day. They were just laughing because I had no attachment to the outcome like you're talking. You're just amplifying that you would love this person over here to feel joy, love, and happiness and peace. And you're you're unattached to whether knowing if they've got it or not.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to be attached. It's just stay clear in truth and let the divine energy do the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would love to know how you utilize your skills and your gifts right now to help people because I know you've gone we've talked about you've gone through some things that brought you to this place and then you've helped what you've discovered things about it with your children and so I know you are a coach and you help people so how do you help them? Where do you find these people? And I'm asking because anybody that's watching or listening, if they are one of those people, I want them to know right off that, hey, I need to call her.
Yeah, I have got a website, so I'll give you the link to that when I
Okay.
finish. But I guess for me, it's been more people come to me just randomly, like they. I haven't really advertised.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always helping people. Like for a long time there, I was like a friend of mine, Mares, and often giving volunteering at places where they do healings, and I would volunteer twice a week and do sessions on people just as a contribution. And so, yeah, I've never really advertised, and
Mm-hmm.
so started getting into that with
Yeah.
my new mentor, Stacey Lauren. So she's helping me show me the ropes on social media,
Yeah.
and so I'm still working on that, but I can share my website and you can find me at Kali Bolo on Facebook and direct message me
So
if you.
if you could say, who is it that you help?
Well, I just help women. I actually help both women and men
Mm-hmm.
get into their core of their direct connection to their inner heart, inner sanctum, center in their sushumna, in their vibrational field that connects into the physical, where it flows straight through. And I just help them get present. I help mainly women get into that lower body so they reclaim the power of their creative womb. And I love teaching tools around that to get into your body present
Mm-hmm.
and anchor your soul identity.
So I imagine from what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's some of the wound healing, the womb healing. So does that mean you help them with celebrating their monthly periods? You help them to get in touch with the feelings that they have. Am I understanding?
Yes, I do. I help them get into those emotional feelings that were unable to be navigated like mine, unable
Mm-hmm.
to be unpacked and spoken. But we go more specific to the emotions so that they're not sort of in the bigger story. They're actually honing down into the specifics and change their direction of life choices from a
Mm-hmm.
higher perspective. So it's like bringing the shadow out and
Mm-hmm.
reclaiming the power of the shadow and moving forward. And it's touching into those emotions. Like right now, I'm sitting in my womb speaking, but a lot of times I could speak from my head. So I'm going to go to my head and speak. And so then I'd be talking about my children for a moment, for example, for a minute. And my children, they're 18, they're both different to each other. I'm not sure their direction in life, but I'm curious every time they bring up where they're heading because I can't see the expansion of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to drop down into my power center. And my twins, they're 18, they've got these amazing directions they want to take. They're incredible humans. I knew it since they were born. And I don't know where they're heading with their amazing, intuitive, energetic field, supporting them on their journey. But my daughter wants to be an actress. My son works in a shop and loves it. And I'm just grateful that they are happy.
Very cool.
And so
Yeah.
I'm speaking from two different parts of me. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you notice new change, but those two different parts really make a difference when you show up because you're in
Mm-hmm.
your truth when you're in your whole body and in the womb. And
Mm-hmm.
when you speak from that lower part of the body, you get to speak more what's important and what lights you up and is the truth for the other person. So you're actually in relationship with the value of each other when you're speaking from the womb and
Mm-hmm.
speaking from that lower body. And so that value amplifies the joy, the truth, the holding space for each other. Like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I love the way things are going in the world right now when it comes to this kind of stuff because when I was young, um, it was like when it came time for your period or anything like that, you really weren't supposed to talk about it. And if you had to take a tampon or something to the bathroom, you would hide it
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't want anybody to say anything. And I actually started my period at 9. So I was quite young when I started, but my mom had taken us to some kind of little class that they had at the Y that talked about your bodies. And so she was a little ahead of her time, I think, in my opinion, because she did take us to this class. So I knew what was going to be happening. Um, but in the class, they talked a lot about you were a woman, right? Because you were older when this happened. And so at 9, I thought, I'm a woman. And I was really excited about it until those period pains hit.
Yeah.
And then it was like, take it back. And then I dreaded it every month. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. And sometimes I would lay in the bed and I'd have a heating pad and I would cry because it hurt. And I think to me that a lot of that pain and everything that I went through was because of the mental thing that was going on about my period, because you had to hide it. It was something you didn't really talk about. Now, we could talk about it at home a little bit, but as far as with friends or out, no, you didn't. And so I think I love, like I said, the fact that it's a different world now to where it's not anything to be ashamed of. It's something to be celebrated that that's actually our superpower, right? The fact that we have this ability that our body does this is so amazing. And so I love what you're doing. I really do. Because it is something that is much needed. And I've heard some people talk about it as, actually um, living from the womb, completely.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I would think, okay, what does that mean? How does that flow? What is that about? And I would have to really sit with it for a little bit because it seems so different from what I was grown up to be, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that little tiny story and
Yeah.
tell you how much I admire that in what you're doing.
Yeah, and like my mum had a hysterectomy when I was probably around 20. And then when I started teaching these tools in the last 6, 7 years, my mum used to come to my classes. She's passed now. She passed about a year and a half ago. And she had so much shame of going into her womb. And she never spoke about it with us. But I realized with the classes, because after it took her about 6 months of once a week classes with me, and she said she finally had light in her womb. She could see the light. It was
Oh,
like,
wow.
and so she was like so excitedly, speaking on it. I could, and I had no idea because she never spoke about it. It was like old school, you don't speak
Yeah,
about it.
well, you're taught, I don't know how old your mom was, but when I was a kid, you were taught you don't talk about those things. You don't talk. And there was a big thing about kids are supposed to be seen and not heard. So if there was something going on, you were supposed to keep it to yourself, especially if there was something going on in the household. It was taboo to speak about it anywhere else.
Exactly. And that's why I never learnt the art of communicating and,
Mm-hmm.
and speaking to people on what I do. I just kept myself in a box. But with mum, she was around 80 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm talking 80 years of, or
Yeah.
maybe once we were born, turning off the light in there
Yeah.
and not utilizing her creative power center to express and be seen and feel safe to be seen and trust self. Trust whatever words come out that are spoken on in the moment when you connect down there into your whole body. Those words can impact many people, and the ripple effect, like you don't even know what that is, but
Yeah.
so profound.
Yeah.
And your truth. And I mean, we're talking about the liberation of your feminine essence, your value, and your periods is a short piece of a whole month of your vibration, your creative power center. And it's just clearing out some old energy at that moment of
Mm-hmm.
those few days. And then basically you're in, and also it's your rest period,
Right.
like you're
Which
resting.
we've never been taught, or I was never taught to honor that, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I even heard that, um, there was a woman that I was taking a course from, and she said, well, she said, this is my rest period, so we're going to be postponing the classes for these days. And I thought, what the heck? What? I don't understand. And then she shared, that this was why. And I thought, what a powerful thing because we don't usually give ourselves the ability to just cut it off and rest, especially for that, right?
Yeah. And that's around the world. Like in India, I've been to India about 5 times to this beautiful, incredible place in Pedam. And there, like, they actually take 3 days off, I think, or 4 days off around that menstrual period time. Because if they don't, they work, the mothers work all year round. Like, they don't have days off with family. And
Okay.
so that's like a divine time they have to take off if they are working. And so even not even in the family. So yeah, I think you're correct because my twin sister and my aunt, when I mentioned to them about my courses, they were horrified that I was going to take them to the womb. and and I thought they don't even realize mum is so excited that she's lit her light in her creative power center.
Yeah, yeah.
My twin sister was horrified that I would. And I said, but this is empowering our future children and humanity because men have feminine essence as well. And like,
Yeah,
it's empowering humanity to value each other, but also women to value themselves because we are the whole body. We're not separate. And so it's like Sacred Body Temple is my Facebook group. And it's all about me and people that come into that group getting into their center of their being and valuing all parts of their vehicle. This
Yeah.
vehicle is a receptive vehicle. And when you're in your feminine essence, you're in your receptivity.
Yeah.
So whatever you pray for, that person you mentioned, you want them to be in love and light and happy. That is you receiving the prayer by being in your receptive vehicle. And I've done introduction sessions where people have had their prayers answered in the moment during the 3 hour intro session on my feminine work. And they've had miraculous things occur from outside the course of people ringing at the right moment after, like, one person hadn't met their relative in 17 years and they rang in the middle of the session.
Wow.
And this lady had been praying for 17 years. But because I was just doing an intro session and I was showing them a couple of tools, it created and they rang them.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's the
Nice.
receptivity of your feminine, and it's worth, it gives birth to humans. And so it's very powerful, and it's
Yeah.
worth valuing.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it. So we're getting close to time. So, how can people reach out to you? I know you just mentioned your Facebook group, so go ahead and tell them what that is, and then I'll put your links in the description too. So, what is the name of it again?
And Sacred Body Temple.
Okay.
With,
Is that a free group?
yeah, free
That's
group.
private but free, right?
Private, yeah.
Okay. Very
So they can
cool.
find me there, and I'll put my Wix landing page link in, give that to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And so if there's one thing that you could share with our watchers, our listeners, to help them on this journey, that in case they can't reach out to you right away, what is one part wisdom that you want to give them in this moment?
Yeah, you're not alone. Even in all those years of bullying, I was never alone. The divine or the quantum field, Mother Nature was with me. She would show me heart-shaped leaves wherever I walked. So you're not alone. You do belong. And we are all valuable. And when we get into our full body and claim our body, our space, our energy, you will recognize that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. So this has been amazing, Kelly. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. And I appreciate you. And one of the things, really quick before we pop off, I want to say one of the things that I know you're not advertising or anything like that, but if you would tell that story about your mom, that full story, create some kind of video about it and share it into some menopause groups, you might be surprised at the people that are longing for that. And that would be the catalyst that brings them to you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for that. I appreciate you suggesting that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you do, I hope to hear how it goes, but I'm pretty sure you'll have some people lining up just to be able to replicate what your mom did.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, guys. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you next time.